All right, here we go. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. What's up, JMart? How we doing, man?
All right, we're doing good, doing good. Good to be in like the New Year's. Obviously, there's college football, but also good to hang out with family, all that stuff too. So,
Yeah, now the college football playoff makes sense again. I don't know about the first round. There's some interesting games, and then some not so interesting games. So yeah, I'm gonna hopefully just by picking your brain here and you talking about all four of these games, it'll help whoever's gonna bet on the games. I know you said, I asked you right before, I was like, hey, you have any like super strong opinions? It's like it's kind of impossible in this round because they're coming off such a long break to be like I have a really strong opinion on the four best teams in the country when they haven't played in a little while, and for some of these teams haven't played a game that really matters in a minute. So I think next round it might be easier after you see this round. So we're just going to break down the games. You'll kind of tell us where you're leaning, but no, you basically weren't guaranteeing anything here for the I guess it's the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, right?
no, yeah, it'd be the quarterfinals. And yeah, like you were saying, a lot of time in between the games. Like Oregon didn't play even a conference championship, so they haven't played really, realistically, a real game in over a month.
Right.
Georgia's coming off longer time, but then you have teams who have played a couple, but then get like an extra long week plus period to kind of see where they're at. So it's definitely interesting to see who comes out fresh. But I do think like semifinals, finals, you'll see like a much more consistency, much more of an ability to kind of understand the teams, like
Yeah.
who they are at this point.
Yeah, I would say the best betting advice I would give for the college football playoff would be if you have an opinion on whether it's Miami or actually, I would say really any team, whether they're the underdog or the favorite this week, betting them to win the national championship, you're going to get the best odds you can get right this second. So if you have a hunch on a couple teams, that might be worth it. Let's start with Miami. That's where I love the game against Texas A&M. It's like just a classic old school game, just body blow after body blow. And then Miami comes out on top. They got to feel good about themselves because they went 10-3. They go into a hostile environment. No one believes they can win this game. The number's really high. It's 9.5 points, and then the total's only 40.5, which feels really low. It's Ohio State. It's Miami. First, before you give me this game, I want to know your thoughts on the last two games each team played. Start with the Miami A&M game, and then the Ohio State Indiana Big Ten Championship, and then work your way towards this game. So Miami A&M, was that what the hell did you think of that game?
I mean, in all honesty, it was a horrible game. Like when I was thinking about that game, when I was talking about it to people, I was saying it really comes down to which quarterback's gonna fuck up worse or which one is just gonna mess up. And you really did see that's what it comes down to. Marcel Reed throws a pick right on the goal line, kind of it ends the game fully. But Carson Beck wasn't good at any point during that game. But I do think that points more to how Miami has a better support system than Texas A&M did. A&M has a good defense, but we saw this against Texas. If you can run the ball effectively against A&M, it really kind of takes away all of that firepower the defense has. And so Miami focused on just running the football, and it was a really good game strategy, and it ends up being just enough offensively to win them the game. But I do expect like Carson Beck has to play better if they want to beat Ohio State. I'm not saying he has to be great. You watch Fernando Mendoza in the Big Ten Championship not be great at all against Ohio State, still pull it off. But Carson Beck needs to be more consistent, needs to be calmer than he typically is as a quarterback. You can see the game get away from him at times, and it definitely happened against A&M. But ultimately, that game against A&M comes down to Miami has a great defense and a really strong run game, and they can stand on their own without a good performance from Carson Beck, which is something to like notice. Ohio State, that Indiana game comes down to some bad special teams, which has been a problem for Ohio State in the past. You can't, so a missed field goal that you really just can't miss. And then just this thing that I definitely saw against Michigan, and then you saw it once again against Indiana, Julian saying kind of being a non-factor. He really wasn't much against Michigan. He wasn't the reason they got back into that game or kind of took control. It was the run offense. I don't expect that to be very profitable for Ohio State against Miami. Miami, you saw week one comes out, really shuts down Notre Dame's ability to run, forces them to pass, and they're able to control the game the entire time. Ohio State's going to really need to be able to throw the ball. You'd look at that team, you'd assume they can with the weapons they do have in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and the best tight end in the league. I'm forgetting his name right now. But I think that what you need from what Ohio State needs, looking back at that Indiana game, is more consistency out of Sayin and a better offensive line approach. I'm not going to criticize Ohio State's defense at all. I think it's perfect. I don't think there's many flaws there. But they need to be a more quarterback dominant offense in order to beat Miami. And Miami's going to need Carson Beck to be more involved in the game in order to beat Ohio State.
If they swap quarterbacks, would it be like a 16-point spread, or is Beck in relatively equal?
I think realistically, I think the spread probably essentially stays the same. It's really hard to tell. I think Beck with weapons is one of the most dangerous quarterbacks you can have, and you give him Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and the run game they have. He really reads more like a Will Howard kind of quarterback, where it's like it's an impossible system for a fifth-year quarterback to be of his caliber to be bad. Sayin would need to, there'd be more ups and downs, but there definitely would be higher ups with Sayin in Miami than with Beck.
Oh, that's funny you said that, because I was really just going to go to Will Howard, because I was like, what's the difference, right? Ohio State's offense last year was dynamic. Will Howard goes in the 5th or 6th round. He doesn't get on the field. He's in Pittsburgh. Nobody wants to watch him play. He might develop. I'm not saying he's not, but no one wanted to give him the keys, right? And now for people that haven't been watching, or, saying it's only, he's a freshman, right? It's only his however many starts it's going to be this year, right? 11, 12, whatever it is. What's the ceiling? Like, can Ohio State look like they did at all last year, or are they just going to have to win these games 17-6, 7 in order for it to be like a quote unquote dominating win? Can they put up 35 points, or is that like out of the question?
I mean, they have the offensive ability to do it, but when I look at Sayin, I see a quarterback that is playing with something to lose. It's clear that he doesn't want to make a big mistake, and he's been good at mitigating mistakes throughout the season. He's done a good job of that. But you look back at Will Howard, even in his bad games, he's playing like a fifth-year senior who has nothing to lose at all. He's going to go out there, balls to the wall, play his best game. That's why you see it rise in the playoffs as the confidence grows, and then he just can be a little more fluid and play a little outside of himself. Haven't seen Sayin really play outside of himself at all. He's kind of played within a structured system and not want it to be the reason his team loses a game. I don't think that mindset out of a quarterback works to win a national championship. And I don't think in the last 5 that any of those quarterbacks had that mindset.
Yeah, ideally then sounds like Ohio State would use this game to build his confidence, build a lead, let him take some deep shots. All right, so my take from it is 9.5 points is a lot of points. It sounds like a lot of points, but the way Ohio State's playing defense, you're going to feel sick to your stomach if you're watching the game and it's like a 2-score game and you need Miami to get a touchdown at the end of the game to cover. It's just one of those things where I don't know if I want to be a part of that. So
no, I think you're right. I see this game probably staying at 1 possession the whole time, and then there is absolutely a good chance it jumps to 10 points immediately. The line's high, and it's right at that line for a reason. I think it's gonna play right above or below that line, whichever way it goes.
Carson Beck goes to the NFL draft regardless. You can't ask for a more important game. I mean, if he puts it together and wins, depending on what happens over there with Mendoza and Dante Moore, there's still a couple more variables, but he's going in the top 10, whether or not he's the first overall pick tonight, or excuse me, whenever they play.
You think that's top 10?
Because if they beat Ohio State. I'm saying the game would be so important, just the way quarterbacks get picked. You see it every year. If they win this game, because this Ohio State defense, I mean, you can't find, like you called it perfect. I'm not really sure exactly what Miami's supposed to do. I mean, that's why it's hard to pick Miami to win this game. If you want to pick Miami to cover, sure, you can make that argument. That's an easy argument to make. But to win the game would be Carson Beck makes a lot of good plays, unless you think this kid is just going to screw it up, Sayin, and just give it to him. But you're saying that's not Ohio State's game plan. It's not really going to give you a chance to do that. So Miami sticks around, and we have it ingrained in our memory of Carson Beck making a couple big throws. And, yeah, I think he goes in the top 10. And on the opposite side, if they get killed again and he doesn't look good, it's like, man, back-to-back games and playoff atmospheres, and he just wasn't very good. And, maybe he's a second, third, or whatever round pick. All right, so the winner of that game is going to play. We'll skip around and go a little out of order. So the late game is at 8 o'clock on New Year's. So Miami and Ohio State play New Year's Eve by themselves after a bunch of other bowl games that they're still playing for some reason. And then Ole Miss and Georgia are going to be the late game on New Year's, but they're also going to play the winner of the Miami-Ohio State game. So we'll stick with that bracket first. Let me set it up this way. If anybody's going to pick against Georgia, it really will be you. You love Georgia, but you've been. I can't wait to see what you think about this game. But the headline going into it is Georgia beat Ole Miss and they covered the first game, but Ole Miss really outplayed them. I think that's a fair thing to say. But Gunner is kind of his coming out party. Gunner Stockton, like ever since Georgia's been rolling, they rolled over Alabama. This is the classic. Does the rest help? Can you beat a team twice? All that kind of stuff. How do you see the game? Because Ole Miss is getting 6.5. It's 55.5 as the total, which is just telling you it's going to be a shootout like the first one. It's in New Orleans in the right, I believe.
Yeah, it's in New Orleans. Yeah,
it's like a 50-50 vibe. So talk to me. What are we thinking?
No, I mean, I really do think you can't really take much away from the Ole Miss game early in the season for Georgia because, like you were saying, it was a completely different Georgia team. That's a Georgia team that snuck out a win against Tennessee, looked horrible against Alabama. You really backtrack past that Ole Miss game, and there's really only one game you can look at on Georgia's resume after that that was bad, and that was against Florida, which was another game that came down to the wire, didn't look pretty. But outside of that, Georgia's controlled every single one of the games they played. They've really played their own game. The offense has looked completely fine. If you find a Georgia fan complaining about the play calling, they're doing it out of spite at this point because I think it's been perfect as well. And the defense has turned into one that was really leaky in the secondary and has really fully locked it down and become a dominant Georgia defense like you'd expect. On the other side of things, I think Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss, I think he's probably been the pound for pound best quarterback in college football. I don't think there's anyone that's passed and ran at the efficiency and level that he has all season. I think if he starts the season as their quarterback and they play the same way they did, he should win the Heisman. Like that's how good he's been. There really isn't a hole in his game. And you saw that in Georgia's first matchup against him. Obviously, they don't punt until the fourth quarter and then they just can't score the football. But I think this game comes down to Georgia really is this is going to be Georgia being told you're the underdog. They come into this game as this playoff as the 3 seed. You could make a good argument. They probably should have been the 2 seed just from like winning your national championship game. You've seen teams switch up in the regular season from that. They're going to run with that narrative, whether it's true or not. And Georgia matches up well. I think Georgia's good enough offensively and strong defensively. And that kind of dynamic of great offense with a really solid defense against Ole Miss, that's elite offense, decent defense, typically goes in favor of the team with the better defense. You saw that in the first matchup. I can see it happen here again.
So big sell. I like everything you said. I think it's a big sell for Georgia to call themselves the underdog.
They do it every year. They did it in the second national championship. They had convinced the players that they were underdogs in their first round matchup against Ohio State. It's fascinating, but Kirby is really, really good at convincing these players that they aren't supposed to win these games.
I will say because the Georgia defense got humiliated the last time by Ole Miss, it does add the opportunity to play the underdog, right? It certainly adds the opportunity to call your players trash and motivate them and not let them celebrate the past couple of weeks. So it'll be fascinating to see how that comes out. What do you make of Ole Miss with the coaching change? They destroyed Tulane. Does it have any effect on this game now that we saw 1 week of Ole Miss, even though, again, it was Tulane? But thoughts on it? Does it matter now that Lane Kiffin's not calling the plays?
I think it absolutely does, simply from the standpoint of if it's Lane Kiffin coaching against Kirby for the second time, I give Lane Kiffin the upper hand 10 out of 10 times. He should be able to figure out a way to score on Kirby the second time out and stay consistent offensively in a way he couldn't last time. It's a new offensive play caller. It is a guy who was at that game, and I'm not going to act like this dude's an idiot or anything. I think he's a good coach, but it's different between Kirby and Lane, two guys that have been going at it forever, know each other in and out, know the way the other guy thinks more. I think Kirby's going to play his game more, which is, I think, something you've seen later in the season. But I am less scared of an Ole Miss team not coached by Lane Kiffin. And I don't think there's much to take away from that Tulane game. Tulane stayed in the game relatively well early, or no, they didn't. They were blown out, but they looked decent coming out the end. They still scored a ton of points. That means something. I think you'll see the defense be a little leakier in this matchup, but both teams have something to prove. This game should be really close, and at 6.5, it's hard to really think a team like this Georgia team is going to be able to keep it outside of a touchdown.
Got it. But who are the best players on Georgia, by the way? They got first round picks this year?
Yeah, CJ Allen at linebacker definitely is going to be a first rounder. Ellis Robinson at corner's been great. KJ Bolden's had a weird year, but he's been solid. Defensively, on the front four, not as many names this year because, again, like you've seen, it hasn't been a great pass rushing year for Georgia, not a ton of turnovers, but the defense has been really driven through CJ Allen being an absolute force at the Mike linebacker position. Ellis Robinson taking away one of the receivers, Dalen Everett taking another one away. KJ Bolden up top has really been the recipe for success.
And then what's the offensive line look like? Do they got any first rounders there?
So that's the thing is it was a super young offensive line coming in. And I think it's still a pretty young one. Is anyone going? I think Jake Bobo's who they always talk about. I personally am not a big fan. He's the center. He's solid. He probably will be a high round draft pick, but I wouldn't say he's anything special as a blocker. And then obviously the offense runs through Zach Branch. So it really comes down to Zach Branch. It's kind of like an X factor receiver. You'll see him run deep routes. You'll see him run screens.
Is that 86?
He's one.
Who's 86?
86 is Dylan Bell, who you will see really used in that running back and deep threat role. And that's the thing about Georgia is they can really blend both of them together and do that with both. And then you still have Lawson Lucky at tight end, and you still have Nate Frazier at running back. A lot of weapons on the offense.
Sorry to do this to you because it's over with, and I'll root for Georgia with you. I don't know if I'm betting 6.5, but the Notre Dame game last year because they kept throwing to him. Did he step out of bounds or fumble or do something they wasn't supposed to do in that game? Early in the game, I feel like he stepped out or they called offensive Anyway,
there was something. He dropped. It was a deep pass. He was either overthrown, dropped.
It wasn't his fault that we lost. It was the quarterback's fault, but he wasn't there to help.
Yeah,
no. But this Georgia team, it's 6.5. It's 55.5 as a total. Sounds like you're saying that you would lean more towards it being a tighter game, but you would take Georgia. Yeah, it is certainly fascinating. How does that matchup look with if Ohio State gets out of there? We'll start with it this way. If Miami wins, they'll be happy to be there, and then we can analyze a Miami-Georgia game. Would be fascinating. Miami-Ole Miss probably is a 50-50 game. Who do you think Ohio State would rather play, Georgia or Ole Miss?
I mean, they'd always rather play Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think, is a team that matches up way more favorable for them because of how bad Ole Miss is. Or when I'm saying bad in this mindset, we're talking about the final 8 teams in the season. Ole Miss probably has the worst defense out of these 8. So they are comparatively bad defensively, but Ole Miss is an offense first team. Ohio State's defense first. I don't think Trinidad Chambliss could break through that Ohio State defense. I think it's kind of a horrible matchup with a guy like Caleb Downs with a kind of dual threat like Trinidad. I think Ohio State's in there praying Ole Miss wins because, again, they should be able to completely take the muster out of that Ole Miss offense. And you've seen that when that offense is shut down, like in the fourth quarter of the Georgia game, it just rolls down the hill. And once you take away Trinidad Chambliss's confidence, he's a shell of the quarterback he is. You look at Georgia on the other end, they move much more marginally. They aren't really looking for that big play in the same way. It's a little more frustrating for a really good defense. I think Ohio State's looking there saying, please, Ole Miss, win this game. It's a 10 times better matchup for us.
Gotcha. Ohio State plays Ole Miss. They'll be able to get the run game going and control the ball. The worst unit on the field is by far the Ole Miss defense. When you think about Georgia, Ole Miss, and Ohio State, if they're all just what's the worst unit? Now, can Georgia beat Ohio State in anything but a tight game? Is that an old school defensive struggle because Georgia doesn't want to try to lose that game? Will Georgia play? And then I'm going to we'll go to the other games in a second, but then circling back to that Miami, Ohio State, what exactly is the game plan against Ohio State? Is it take a couple deep shots because there's no way you're going to go 8 plays? Can you go 8 plays against them? More likely to go 8 plays for 75 yards or 3 plays for 75 yards?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. I look back to the beginning of the Michigan-Ohio State game, and granted, that's been a landmine for Ryan Day his whole time at Ohio State, but they ran the ball incredibly well early in that game and really were able to assert themselves there. Michigan did, and then eventually they stall out because, again, Michigan has no passing game whatsoever, and then the game gets out of hand from them. But early on, they ran the ball well. And I think
that's how to run the ball. So basically, you got to punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, you got to come out
and throw the ball against the blitz or against those corners. It's a non-starter.
Yeah, I mean, I think early you got to establish the run because you kind of can't have Caleb Downs sitting really, really deep or shallow. You got to have Caleb Downs essentially guessing and praying he's making the right pick, and he normally will. but the goal is to keep him out of the game as much. So it's deep out routes where he can't get to them. You target and also pray that the penalty calls are in your favor. Ohio State, and I cannot pronounce his last name. It's a hard one to say. They had the guy who was most penalized quarterback in the league 2 years ago. He's been getting away with a lot more this year. He's still fouling on every single play. That's another guy you can look to target and say, hey, they'll probably call games a little more aggressively in the playoffs. They'll probably pick up the penalty flag. They'll probably throw a few more penalty flags. He plays very handsy. If we can put a guy on him like Tony, if you can put Malachi Tony on a guy like him, get him open in space, he will make mistakes. That's another way you can target them, get them kind of infighting a little. It's going to be, though, hard running and deep shots should be the way you try and attack Ohio State.
Gotcha. All right. Other side of the bracket, noon game, early on New Year's. I can't wait for this one. Oregon, Texas Tech, because I love Texas Tech. You'll have to talk me out of it. I like Oregon. I was impressed with Oregon's 2 road wins that I watched most of the game at Penn State, at Iowa. They felt better at the time, both of them, in the way both of those Big Ten teams finished. We talked about it earlier where Oregon hasn't played in a month. So, yeah, go into it for me because Texas Tech Oregon hadn't played for a month until they just beat James Madison. But it's James Madison. They weren't really challenged. I don't know if that helps or hurts them, honestly, because this Texas Tech defense, I guess we'll find out how good it really is. But I'm pretty high on it. I know it was the Big 12. What are your thoughts on this game? Oregon's a 2.5-point favorite. 51.5 is the total. Both teams have to travel. They're going all the way down to the Orange Bowl. So a lot of traveling for Oregon and, not around the corner for Texas Tech. I don't know what the stadium will look like. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually sell it out. Go ahead. What are your thoughts, Texas Tech and Oregon?
I mean, yeah, the one question mark in this game for me is, or there are two really, is the first main one is how good really is Texas Tech? Like they look very good, but again, they haven't necessarily played anyone that's like national radar. Like that's a team that's an impressive win. They've run through the Big 12. They're clearly the best team out of the Big 12. And the Big 12 this year, while not being like having elite level talent, has definitely had a bunch of teams that are really like strong, probably finish in the middle of the pack in a Big 10 or an SEC, and Texas Tech has handled them pretty easily. So the first question, what's Texas Tech going to look like? Second one is Dante Moore has struggled time and time again against really good defenses. He looked really bad against Indiana. That was just a rough game that you kind of just want to wipe your mind clean from. And then like you've seen other matchups where it's not come super easily for them. I believe Washington gave him a hard time. Like he's really struggled in these games against really good defenses. You want to see him kind of wipe that away and look a little stronger. And hope that, again, big spotlight. He's coming out here. Everyone's saying he probably is the number 1 overall pick. He's now got to show it, and he's got to come out and earn it himself.
I was going to say, where is he going? Where's the best players on Oregon? How exactly would they attack this Texas Tech defense?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon at running back, I believe it's Jordan Whittington, I think, or Eli Whittington, one of the two. He's a really strong running back, and when they can, they will run the ball 20 times a game. And this is going to be a philosophy you'll see them use to like kind of open up more passes for Dante Moore. As for Dante Moore receiving options, again, I haven't watched a ton of Oregon. I know they have a great tight end and they have a really good number 1 receiver. They typically do go for faster receivers. That's been a Dan Lanning strategy, is to go quick on them, have guys that can get open in space. But what you saw last year, of course, in their one playoff appearance is good receivers kind of run into a wall against really good corners. Ohio State completely blanketed the field last time Oregon came out there, and I think the play calling came out super weak from Oregon last time they made the college football playoff. So there are some demons on the shoulder of a Dan Lanning that he needs to shake off. And really, in my opinion, Dante Moore needs to show that he can go toe-to-toe against good defenses. I haven't seen it yet. I think him as a mobile runner will be super valuable in this game. But yeah, this for me is a matchup really between two teams that I don't know what either of them are against good competition. They're both going to kind of need to show me how well can you play when you're playing against a really, really good team on the other side.
What's the vibe on Texas Tech's quarterback, and how's he match up against Oregon's defense?
I mean, yeah, it's Baron Morton, I think. And he's been good at points and bad at points. He's had games where he's come out, he's looked great. He's had games where he's come out, not looked as good. I think Oregon, I believe Texas Tech, in my opinion, obviously you know them as the air raid offenses of the past, the Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 80 times a game, all of that stuff, the Cliff Kingsbury offense. Less of that now. They're more balanced these days. They play a lot more of a control style instead of just absolutely bombing it deep. A little bit more of a pro offense, and a really good running back in that team too that really helps them. You're going to expect Oregon to blitz and play man. Like that's Dan Lanning's thing. He learned it from Kirby. That's how he's going to play. It's going to be pressure on the quarterback, especially in a matchup where the quarterback isn't the premier player on the team. You're going to see that from him. He's going to want to make Baron Morton uncomfortable because while Texas Tech has been great, they don't have players that have been in an atmosphere like this and played in a game with this level of stakes. Oregon does. And I think that's really what Oregon's going to need to lean in on is that experience they have in these moments and kind of force Texas Tech to kind of get that imposter syndrome, that feeling they don't really deserve to be here.
So I got Texas Tech as my favorite option to bet to win the championship. They're the easiest team that can claim the nobody believes in us. Like, how come nobody is giving us a chance? We're underdogs against Oregon when we're the higher seed. And who the hell is Oregon beat this year to be the favorite? That's number one. And then number two, it's basically what you just said. You started talking about Patrick Mahomes and beforehand. It's like no one thinks about Texas Tech. They're not really relevant. All I know is I watched that BYU game, and the defense looked pretty fast to me. And Oregon has so much to lose in it. This is like a game that Oregon's program has to win because you don't need a narrative. You know, it's not like it's like the worst thing you need amongst like teenage kids is for a place to not be cool. And Oregon is super cool. They've done a great job of being maybe the coolest place, right? It's like the middle of nowhere, but you have the best amenities and everybody loves the program and, you know, all the connections with Nike. But their narrative right now is that they're soft and they're weak. And they brought in this defensive coordinator who yells and has all this like confidence, alpha type of guy, and they haven't backed it up. This is the game they have to back it up. I wonder if they come out really tight. You talked about the quarterback, Dante Moore. I think the vibe is he's going to stay there. We can talk about that maybe after, you know, next time we do a pod about the recruiting and the draft and all that stuff. But I just think like Carson Beck has a little bit, fuck it. No one thinks I'm going to play good. Dante Moore is like, I have to play good. So I wonder if the nerves get to him. It is a lot of traveling, like I said. So the winner of that game, you know, is I think well positioned to win against the last matchup we're going to talk about. But yeah, I like Texas Tech. I like them a lot, and I like the fact that they get to play the underdog card. So, what's your final thoughts on how the game plays out? I know you said you're most likely not betting this week, but if I made you bet Oregon minus 2.5 and the total being 51.5, where would you go?
Realistically, I'm going probably just Texas Tech money line straight up. There is no reason, in my opinion, for Oregon to be the favorite besides name recognition. They've actually not beaten a team better than probably 3 teams Texas Tech has beaten. And we talk about Texas Tech doesn't have that marquee win. Oregon doesn't even come close to having one. I think those demons that you've seen from Oregon in the past in big games will show up again. I haven't seen Dan Lanning be good in a single big game at Oregon. And Texas Tech has just bared down, done what they needed to do, and done it relatively easily to make the playoffs. I see no reason to expect them to lose a game against a team that I think they match up well against. So, yeah.
All right, last game, 4 o'clock, Rose Bowl, highlight game of the day. Alabama's at Indiana. All right, this is how I want to ask you the question. If you take the Alabama first half against Oklahoma last week and the Alabama first half against Georgia, and everybody that knows about the past 15 years of Alabama football will be like, all right, so Alabama's the 1 seed. They're favored by 7 against who the fuck's Indiana got this year? Oh, that's interesting. And it's like, no, it's Alabama's getting 7 points. Like, I've seen those 2 halves. I know they haven't been perfect the rest of the season, but the half that they put on at Oklahoma and then at Georgia, I thought they were – this is I'll share my quick thoughts and then I'll let you go. But I thought that Alabama last week, it was a classic shit. I can't even believe we're up by this much. Like, we didn't game plan for this. And then their foot went off the gas. Oklahoma made a couple plays. Things happen. It's college football. But they held on. They won the game. And I give them a ton of credit for that. And Indiana, I just don't know if I believe in the Indiana defense, number one. I'll let you go on Indiana. But I just felt like it's fool's gold the way they stopped Ohio State. I don't know if Ohio State put out their A-plus game plan, and they're about to face a an Alabama team that gets the be 7-point underdogs for the like what is way better than me the kind of motivation Georgia's trying to talk them. So you said Georgia plays the underdog card when they're 6.5-point favorites against a team they already beat, but Alabama's getting 7 points against Indiana. Help me figure out why it's 7 points, because obviously it's got to be 7 for a reason. So I know all right, I'll shut up after this last point, then you should go. But Indiana, the way people are going to gamble in this game is some people just won't be able to stomach Alabama being a 7-point favorites, 7-point underdogs, just blindly bet Alabama. Count me in that camp. The other camp are going to be people that tell you they're expert gamblers, and the only reason why this is 7 points is because Indiana probably should be 10-point favorites, and it's only 7 because it's Alabama in name recognition. Where do you fall? Educate us on this on this game here, please.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, just breaking down the line to start off with, Indiana, really outside of that Ohio State game, which does, for the record, leave a really sour taste in the mouth of a 6.5-point spread against Alabama, have beaten basically, I think they have beaten every other team they've played this year by 2 possessions.
Besides the Penn State game.
Besides Penn State as well. They've just dominated everyone. It's not even been close. They've looked incredible. And I think that's been really because of Curt Cignetti being super true to himself and playing his game, coming out, punching them in the mouth and saying, you're not going to get up. We're going to beat you. The reason why I think that's a horrible strategy is specifically in this matchup is that's exactly what Oklahoma did last week. They came out, punched Alabama in the mouth, played their game, said, our playbook's open. You know what we're doing now. You can't beat us. And I think Cignetti's going to come out and do the same thing. The issue is Bama can beat you. Bama will see that open playbook, know what you want to call, adjust at halftime, come out, and they're going to win the game. And I think that's what they did against Oklahoma last matchup. Oklahoma comes out, looks really good because they have a fully open playbook, and Bama's still feeling the game out a little bit, still letting the game come to them. And now Oklahoma has no play calls left for the second half to really win them the game. So Alabama really has no issue with that pressure. I think Ty Simpson looked horrendous for the first half. I think he was scared. I think he was nervous. And I think that impacted his plays. And then second half, it's a different quarterback. He looks confident, he looks poised, and that's not going to go away. I don't think Indiana can make that go away. So now I look at this team and I see a team very similar to that Will Howard run Ohio State team from last year that has a confident quarterback that gained confidence in a first-round matchup, getting to go against a really good 1 seed, but a 1 seed that can't be knocked off.
Yeah, so first of all, quick correction because I was talking so fast. I meant to say the second half of the Oklahoma game, the first half of the Georgia game. So, yes, they put together a full game, first half of the Georgia, but the first half of the Oklahoma game was dreadful. If that happens, can they really come back from 17-0 against Indiana, or is it lights out? Isn't that part of the reason why the spread is what it is?
I think, yeah, the reason the spread's so high is the variation. Like Indiana can put a team down by 20. It really doesn't matter how good they are. But I do worry about there is that arrogance that Curt Cignetti's run with that has made his team so good. You got to play a little humble against Alabama. You always do. You have to keep the cards close to your chest a little bit, feel them out because the talent's there. Kalen DeBoer is an incredible coach. I think Grubb's a great offensive coordinator that with NFL experience that calls games like an NFL offensive coordinator will. He doesn't care about the early, losing by 2 touchdowns early in a game because he's got a script ready for the second half that will punch you in the mouth. And the biggest part for me is Alabama did this without Ryan Williams doing anything. He was non-existent in that first game. And so I think,
where's Alabama attack Indiana? What do you think is the game plan?
It will be, I think the biggest mistake Alabama made early in the game was running the football as much as they did. It wasn't there, and it won't be there again against Indiana. But I think you got to try it to an extent to really try and open the game up. But the biggest benefit Alabama has is the guy who catches all the touchdowns has the big game against Oklahoma. He barely played leading up to that game. He's a true freshman. He didn't really exist on the Alabama team until they pull him out of nowhere. And Alabama has 3 other guys probably that they can just pull out and do the same thing. So you can focus on Ryan Williams all you want. And I think you might think about doing it. But if you focus too much on Ryan Williams, you focus too much on Torrey Horton or some of these other really good receivers, Giovanni Bernard, all these guys, there's another receiver on that field for Alabama that can get open. It comes down to Ty Simpson staying poised. But if he's poised, I don't think I don't think Indiana has the guys there to guard Bama, understands how to play against Bama the way a Georgia team does, or a Tennessee does, or Oklahoma does. Um, and yeah, I think truly it comes down to how Ty Simpson plays. If they can get him rattled, the game should be over. But I think really Bama's got a great chance of winning this game, and I think there is some value in betting that spread.
Yeah, I lean on, man, why would they have come back in the second half last week unless they're really ready to go on a run? And I think Indiana's going to have to play from behind. I think Alabama's going to get off to a fast start. And what's your 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, however long you want to go on Mendoza? How do you think he's going to look? Because we spent a good 5 minutes here on the game, haven't even talked about the Heisman winner. What do you think of Mendoza in this particular spot? And then what do you think of him at the next level?
Yeah, so I mean, this all sounds great. Other side of things, Bama couldn't tackle against Oklahoma. That was a massive issue. They were horrible at that. And it felt like Mateer, if you make Mateer a little more accurate and a little more poised in the pocket, he probably should be able to pull that game off. Mendoza, in my opinion, is just that. He's incredibly accurate and he's incredibly poised. And he's playing with as much confidence as any human being can play with. And they have the weapons around him. They have fast receivers that can get open, similar to Oklahoma, that it makes it a little bit of a question mark. But the other issue is that Mateer has this game breaking ability that Mendoza, in my opinion, has never had. Mateer can kind of take over a whole drive and by himself win a game. Haven't seen that as much from Mendoza. Mendoza he can basically, the way I like to say it is, he can give you the fishing rod, but you need someone on the other end that can fish. Like, he can perfectly place the ball where you need it to be, but it won't be the 50-yard touchdown pass, all air yards. It'll be 20 yards. You need to get the other 30 yourself. He's very stable. He's very steady, and he's very calm.
Are you saying like it kind of sounds like a little Joe Burrow? Give me the weapons, and the ball will be there on time.
I would say even lighter than a Joe Burrow. Like, I think he's one of those, like, what we've seen, like kind of a Brock Purdy type, where it's like you surround him with good weapons and you give him confidence, he'll play great. You take the confidence away, you end up with a game where the guy's throwing like 2 picks early in the game.
If it's 3rd and 5 and it's a tight game, will he look to run before he should? Is that his Achilles heel?
Not at all, in my opinion, really. Like, I think he's very poised and he makes the right decision a lot of the time. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. There is a natural ability that just isn't there. Like, he's just not a freak athlete in the way that a lot of other quarterbacks are. Trinidad Chambliss, Dante Moore. You could even put Ty Simpson in that like threshold. He's just gonna make the smart read. He reads like a Drew Brees. He reads like, one of those guys where you kind of put him in a strong system, he can flourish, but he does need a strong system around him or he just won't really work.
That's what the Vikings were hoping to get with JJ McCarthy. It didn't really pan out. It's dicey, right? If you don't have the perfect system, you need the approach of we'll just take Lamar Jackson and then figure it out after. Sensitive subject at the moment, but we'll see if he ends up playing. All right, so you would say Alabama, if I made you bet, you'd take the 7 points and you could see it going either way. What do you think is it's hard. We go through all the different potential matchups with Alabama, Indiana versus Oregon and Texas Tech. So I'm not going to have you do that, but we'll break down the games next week, see what happens. But yeah, I think if you're betting on these games and you actually watch the games, you can have a really good opinion on the semifinals. Don't really pay attention to the spreads or the totals. Just go with your actual gut opinion, because all the analysis going into the game, you still have to remember we're talking about teenagers, early 20s that had a lot of time off. And now we're back to like a week 1 environment where it's really hard to predict. So I might put like a few bucks down, but I'm way more confident in a couple NFL games. So I figured I'm going to do a pot. I guess we'll do it. I haven't really quite got a lot of travel things, but anyway, I figured that part out. Definitely we'll do one Sunday morning. But if you didn't mind, I had a couple quick NFL things to run by you, get off my chest, see what you thought about it, and see if we can help some people that might be doing some parlays or whatever they're doing here with Week 18. First thing that's fascinating is your Falcons have completely screwed the Bucs, which makes them so happy. So now you know what's going to happen, which is the Bucs will win Saturday, and then the Falcons, if you guys didn't know this, if the Falcons beat the Saints on Sunday, then the Panthers automatically win the NFC South. I don't have to really want to explain why, because I'll probably forget 1 or 2 things along the way. But so now that Bucs-Panthers game has lost a little bit of some juice. So I'll ask you this. Can the Panthers or Bucs one of those teams win the first round game against which will now be Rams, Seahawks, or 49ers. Is that any possibility?
No, that's not happening. No, I mean
the Rams. They did beat the Rams at home. So
yeah, and their Bucks looked really good at one point in the season. They look horrible now. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm watching these games legitimately. Just a reminder, what happened last week. They didn't just lose to the Dolphins. They lost to Quinn Ewers. He's got to win now. I mean, he beat them. He did beat them.
It's a great job that will be available 6 days from now, Monday morning, as Todd Bowles goes back to being a defensive coordinator or an assistant or a consultant. He's not going to be a head coach in the NFL, I don't think, ever again. Seems like a great guy, but what the hell? Anyway, that's a good job because the Bucs have Baker and a nice offense, but yeah, so you don't think the Panthers, if it's the Rams, they're 100% losing because the Rams are not going to lose twice to the Panthers. That seems like an odd storyline. The Seahawks on the road, they just destroyed the Panthers. That doesn't seem like a great matchup. I guess the Niners, if they lose a heartbreaking game, they go from the 1 seed, now they're the 5 seed. Maybe the Niners screw it up, although the Niners beat the shit out of the Panthers on Monday night. So, all right, we won't waste too much time on that. How about the Niners? Niners Seahawks couldn't be a more important game. We had the same thing happen last year with the Lions and the Vikings. Turned out that neither team was going to win a playoff game as the Lions got their ass kicked by the Commanders, but the Vikings really got their ass kicked by the Rams. That game really affected the entire Vikings season. You could have saw the Vikings making a run last year, and then Darnold was terrible for back-to-back weeks, cost them the division first, and then they lose in the first round. Now we get the same exact thing. So the Niners playing the Seahawks, the winner's going to get the 1 seed, and then the loser, albeit, now that the Rams lost, I forgot now. Niners might be locked into the 5, but regardless, they would play the Panthers / Bucks, not the worst thing in the world, and then ironically would be a rematch against the 1 seed, which would be the Seahawks or the 49ers, depending on how it plays out. So a lot of different things can happen there. Just what are your thoughts here on this particular game, Seahawks 49ers?
Yeah, I mean, really cool matchup it's actually so similar between Lions and Vikings from last year because you are looking at the Niners who play the pseudo Lions in this situation, who in my opinion probably have the best offense in football right now. They have looked unstoppable. They punted twice in the last month, and both of them were last week against the second best team in the NFC currently. So really not a bad matchup. Other side of the ball, Seahawks have been elite defensively, some offensive problems, but they've been good enough. Darnold's looked great. JSN's looked great. Run game's been super fun. But it's still Sam Darnold, and you have seen him pop up again and again. He can play great games.
Dude, I literally did that whole comparison. Forgot to mention the fucking quarterback is the same quarterback, except he gets to be home. He's on the road again. Literally the same situation.
So for as good as Seahawks fans feel, I believe they see that the Vikings were actually 14-2 last year, not 13-3. So they were in a better spot last year with the same quarterback in a very similar situation, a top-tier receiver and a decent run game, spearheaded by an elite defense. It comes down to Sam Darnold winning a big game, which I can just be honest, he hasn't done yet. I haven't seen him do it. He can be so good for so much of the regular season. He can win the important regular season games. This is game 1 for the 1 seed. Do I trust him? Absolutely not. Do I trust Purdy a little more at least? Not a ton, but he's been there before, and he has the best running back, the best offensive weapon in the NFL on his team. Kittle probably will be healthy for this game. I feel like that's why he didn't play against the Falcons because that game didn't really matter as much. It's a dangerous matchup, and I think I wouldn't want to be a Seahawks fan for this one.
Here's my hot take. I actually think the Seahawks, if they lose, it's a better path for them. And here's why. Because you get to play the underdog card in the rematch. And then the first game they're going to play, we just talked about it for a few minutes. It would be because if the Seahawks lose, they're guaranteed the 5th seed. And they would be playing a Panthers team that they literally just beat a week ago. And yeah, it's hard to beat a team twice if the teams are evenly matched. Like Georgia or Ole Miss, that's a tougher situation because Ole Miss feels like, hey, we're going to be successful. The Panthers do not feel like they can be successful, and the Seahawks just play better on the road. Or they would get a rematch against the Bucs if the Bucs do squeal in there, and the Bucs beat the shit out of them or at least beat the shit out of their defense, scoring 38. I think it was a shootout, and they beat the Seahawks earlier in the year in Seattle, which would give the Seahawks motivation. They're going to win that game. And then the Seahawks would get the rematch with the 49ers on the road. And I don't know if Darnold's the 1 seed, I could see him choking in the rematch of San Francisco or the Rams. I kind of like the Seahawks as the underdog team, more so as the favorite. And the 49ers need to be the 1 seed. I don't see the 49ers being road warriors.
They also need a weaker rest. That team is so banged up. They need a weaker plays. Like,
yep, I agree.
Ayuk doing absolutely nothing this year. Have you seen the stuff he's been doing? He's just driving 100 past the stadium, just hurt.
No, I honestly, my capacity for nonsense has reached an all-time high as I'm part of a high school basketball team again. So got enough of these knuckleheads doing stupid things. But yeah, the 49ers, I think this game, I do think it's one of those weird situations where if the Niners win, it actually helps both teams. I think if the Seahawks win, I just don't see the Niners being able to get all the way there. Like you said, I think they need the rest. I don't think the Niners are good enough talent-wise to win the extra game. But I think if they can game plan, like if they have the week to game plan and they get that rematch against the Seahawks, which that would be, right? I think the Niners would be like, damn, we're going to beat them again. We just beat them and we can beat them again. So either way, it's fascinating. One other thing before I get to the Ravens and the Steelers to see what your thoughts are is your Bears team, because I know you root for the Bears. The Bears and the Eagles, it's really important for the Bears to just make sure they get the 2 seed here. So I'm going to just kind of bank on them getting the 2, because if they get the 3, they're not anything can happen. I do not see them going back to Philly and kicking their ass again. So if the Bears get the 3 seed, that means the Eagles get the 2 seed. Bears win the first round. They would most likely end up back in Philly. I want to just talk about the 80% chance, which is that the Bears beat the Lions here as the Lions look like they're done, or the Eagles lose. One of those 2 things happen and the Bears get the 2 seed. We know the Packers are locked into the 7. Thoughts on both of those 2 teams? Start with the Bears. What's the actual ceiling? Do you think they could win the Super Bowl? What did you think of the game on Sunday night? Because it's like they're going to give you a heart attack. My dumbass, I forgot to even mention this in a few minutes. Like, I literally took 5 under bets. I've never felt so stupid about a game. I truly haven't. The first play is the interception for a touchdown. I'm like, that's probably not great, but maybe Purdy will have a bad game and I can go. But it's like, I think I lost all 5 bets here in 10 minutes. Is what happened.
They scored 35 by the end of the first. So I don't know what the line for the game was. I'm assuming
it was great. Nothing was going great in that game. So I was having a hard time like analyzing it objectively about the teams. I was like hate watching it, and then I turned it off. So what did you think? And then mostly about the Bears, though, and then we'll talk about the Packers.
God, I mean, it was such a weird game because the Bears have a good defense. It's so weird seeing games like this where the Bears' biggest flaw, I think, defensively is they foul the hell out of the other team. It happens all the time. Happened against the Packers. Just not super disciplined defensively. It's their weakest link.
Right.
At least the secondary has been better than it has. It's not been great. It's been very leaky. But offensively, they looked, in my opinion, perfect. They had the run game and pass game working perfectly in tandem in a game where DJ Moore does nothing and Rome Odunze is hurt. So they have clearly just been able to make good receivers.
Guys are wide open. I don't like this Ben Johnson guy, like personally, when I see of him. But, dude, guys are wide open. Do they have the most wide open guys in the league? I know we can look that up somewhere, but doesn't it feel like their guys are just always open?
I mean, it's genuinely, I'm trying to think of a team that it does more because it's like Caleb Williams' ability. I think the misdirects out of Caleb Williams as well. He reads the field. If you watch him, it doesn't take him long to make a read. And when he does, he's really not looking at the guy for that long. He'll look over here, look across the other way, and the ball is there. The offensive scripts are ridiculous. Ben Johnson's, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
But they're hurt still.
Yeah, what's the ceiling? If I said they lost in the first round, everybody can believe that. That wouldn't be the most shocking thing. But if I said they made it to the Super Bowl, you'd be like, no fucking way? Or it's like, yeah, I could see that.
They don't have the experience. And the other issue is Caleb Williams hasn't necessarily been he was decent at USC in big games, but there have been issues in the past with big game performances. He plays with a ton of confidence, but it's gotten him in trouble in the past. The balls he throws, he probably throws the prettiest ball in the NFL, but the problem is that it's so.
Sure, it wasn't Shador Sanders' ducks that he was throwing. Hey, no shade, rounds
Actually,
one, but
talk about deep receiver or open receivers. I mean, they're pretty open for Shador over there too. Like he's throwing the ball 50 air yards just immediately to a guy just no one even close to him. It's so great to watch. But no, I think their ceiling. Bears fans are happy to be here. They don't need to win a game. They had a coach come in and turn them.
They have to beat the Packers though. They can't lose a home game to the Packers playoff game, can they? To Malik Willis. Although Malik Willis looks like that looked like Lamar Jackson switched teams, but
Malik Willis is, by the way, I've been so sick of seeing this. Malik Willis has always been a real NFL quarterback. He is a top 30 quarterback in the NFL currently. It's just he goes to the Titans when there's nothing going on in Tennessee and they say, hey, learn how to play quarterback. And it's like, no, my best receiver is like 34-year-old Julio Jones. Like there's no one to throw to here. So I think
you think how do you think that matchup plays out? Assuming it's Bears-Packers. Packers are locked into the 7. I know the Packers feel like they can win that game, whether it's Love or Willis. How do you see it playing out?
Look, the game that Bears lose their last game against the Packers on an interception in the end zone. They win the most recent one on a touchdown to ice the game. It's been one possession both times. I just don't know. It could go either way really so easily. They are, in my opinion, without Micah Parsons, probably the 2 most even teams in the NFC. They play similar styles. It's 50-50 pass and run on both sides. They have 2 quarterbacks that throw really good deep balls, use the tight ends a ton, run the hell out of the ball. It can go either way. It's such a big rivalry this year.
Yeah, it'll perfect 1:00 Sunday afternoon.
I will say I'd lean Packers just because if they get Jordan Love back, a guy who has been so good in the playoffs, it's hard to really bet against him against an inexperienced playoff quarterback in Caleb Williams. It would have to be Jordan Love, yeah.
All right, very interesting stuff. And then let's finish up with your thoughts on this Ravens-Steelers game, because since you don't really care and you're on the outside looking in, interesting what you would think about a couple things. Number one being, what the hell would you do if you're the Ravens? And you got it's like the ultimate question in sports where it's so much fun to talk about and then it gets exhausting. It's only Tuesday. So it's probably going to get exhausting really quick, but it's the 100% of the backup, right? So we get 100% of Tyler Huntley, or I get, I don't know exactly, 69%, 74%. I know I'm not getting 100% of Lamar. So I think that's off the table. But what percent of Lamar, what's like the threshold? It's not a video game. It'd be nice if it was, where I could be like, all right, if I get 72% of Lamar, that's considered better than Tyler Huntley. But if it's 71%, I should go Tyler Huntley. That's basically what the Ravens have to think about. They'll say the right things. I guess I want to frame the question to you. Forget what the Ravens will do, because they paid Lamar. He's the face of the franchise. If Lamar says he can play, they're just going to play him. I think the interesting thing from a fan perspective is, what would I do in my hypothetical when I just watched the Ravens look like the best team in football? They couldn't be stopped, because when they run the ball down your throat, it's fucking impressive. And when they got number 22 running, it's really impressive. So what would you do? What version of Lamar, how great would he have to be in order for you to say, hey, Lamar should play, versus like, man, this Steelers team sucked. If the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl, they should be able to win this game with Huntley. And if it's Lamar's back that's bothering him, then obviously a rest is going to help. So it sounds like you know where I'm leaning, because I'd rather go Huntley here. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's so tough because this is the first time in the Lamar Jackson era in Baltimore where it's felt like the path to the Super Bowl in the AFC is like actually relatively easy. Like there isn't a Chiefs team standing in the way. There isn't a Bengals team that for some reason looks really good. The Bills, while they look good, you've seen the coaching flaws in those big games. It happens again, in my opinion, the dumbest coaching decision of the entire week, even over some of those Falcons punt decisions against the Rams. So I think the Ravens have to sit and look a little long term. They have to think about like, but then you look at the other side is Lamar Jackson a long-term option in Baltimore? That's been a big story. That's another question mark. Do you just use him while he's here, or do you think about the playoffs and what that looks like? It's an absolute nightmare. I pity John Harbaugh for having to make the decision. I would.
You pity John. All right, well, let's just keep going. That's usually not what Ravens fan. I think you're the first person ever that has used those words, but that's funny. Okay, you pity John Harbaugh. Keep going.
I would play it super close to the vest. I would definitely go with Lamar being active for the game, but definitely not commit fully to him starting. I think you can start Tyler Huntley, and if Lamar doesn't have to play, then he doesn't have to play, and that's great. If you end up having to use him, end up having to use him. And
that's a good one. I like that line of thinking. I don't think Lamar. What do you think Lamar's thinking?
Lamar's not even going to let that. But the problem is with a guy like him is like, I don't know how much he's actually rehabbing. The fact that he keeps like injuring these parts of his body that you injure from like not treating your body right, like hamstrings and backs, is definitely annoying. I pray to God he's rehabbing, but you don't really know with him. If he's taking it seriously, he should be able to get back. And
here's how I look at it. He doesn't have a tremendous amount personally to gain from playing in this game.
No.
But he has a lot to lose, starting with his back, right? If you want to give him the respect that his back really hurts, a back injury is dicey to begin with. And then if he wins, he's getting no credit for this because he still has to win 2 more playoff games and probably more than that. So you could look at it from his perspective. Why not take a week? Let Huntley do the hard work. Let him go to Pittsburgh. I shouldn't say the hard work, but let him. I'll fucking play next week. Like, that sounds better. I get a home game against Josh Allen or, a Texans team that might not be able to score that many points that we should be favored against because they're a wannabe Ravens team. I think Ravens fans will feel confident in that. And then, Lamar feels good. He's home. And then still, if he wants to take that week off, he could probably get away with it. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Is if I'm Lamar, I don't know exactly personally. I don't know if he's thinking like that. No one really knows exactly what he's thinking, but I think all signs are going to point towards the Ravens leaning towards, hey, why don't we go with Huntley here? It also takes pressure off Harbaugh. I think deep down Harbaugh would rather Huntley play because then if we lose, it's like, we fucking lost. I didn't have Lamar. And I think we're going to win anyway. I was so impressed with Tyler Huntley. Did you watch any of the Ravens-Packers game?
I kept up with it. I did keep up with it. And Huntley was probably
efficient.
Probably best game management I've seen out of a backup all season. I mean, dude came in, threw the ball, 15 times? And
it was 16 for 20, but everything got rid of it. Like, this. Everybody that plays sports knows that you got to touch the ball, whether it's football or basketball. It's like a team. And sometimes with Lamar, he goes so many plays running around, and then I just don't touch the ball. And Huntley, the ball comes out quick, and receivers aren't mad at Lamar. But it's like, dude, that's kind of open. And Huntley, the leash is tighter. It's like, dude, get rid of the ball in 2 seconds. Andrews is open. This guy's open. Boom, 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 boom. It might not work for 4 games to win a Super Bowl, right? There's a ceiling to that, or Tyler Huntley would have already had a job. I think that's kind of the vibe with Malik Willis. It's a very similar situation. We just haven't seen Malik Willis have the keys yet. I think we saw Huntley enough with the keys to be like, there's a ceiling. But in this particular matchup, the Steelers have such bad karma. Like, let's just end the pod.
They have 9 wins already, right? Like, what
are they doing?
They got their 9th win though, right? They're 9-7, so like it does nothing.
Yeah, whoever wins, it's winner take all. All they had to do was beat to me, that's hard to get over. And the Ravens just
Browns weren't even good in that game. Browns were horrible in that game.
That's what I mean. Like that, they threw one lucky pass to the tight end who ended up getting hurt on that play. Who's actually a beast, that Harold Fenn. The Browns draft incredibly well.
Oh, no, their 2025 draft, like Shadur, Judkins, Fannin, they got Mason Graham,
and then last year they got the Schlesinger. Or is it this year?
That's this year. Schlesinger was also this year. They have 5 starters. You can throw Isaiah Bond in as like an undrafted free agent or 6th-round pick. The only bad pick was Dylan Gabriel, which is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think the karma, the momentum, everything is pointing in the Ravens' direction. So I feel pretty good about it. All right, nice chatting with you. I'll see you at some point. We'll chat and preview the last couple of games here in the college football playoff, and then decide what we're doing here moving forward. Appreciate everybody listening. I wasn't ducking my Sunday night football loss. I wasn't like depressed yesterday morning while I didn't do my pod. We were traveling, and I was depressed during the game, but I would never duck the pod because of the loss. I feel like that's not the right move. But yeah, last week just not great.
It's been a bad couple weeks. Games have not been going how they should have been going. It's been
thanks. That makes me feel.
No, it's not just been you. It's because why the fuck are the Dolphins beating the Bucks? Like we have matchups like shit like that. Why are the Vikings with Max Brosmer beating a fully healthy line?
That wasn't great. That's when you realize that should have been a game. I should know better than like when you can't make the argument for the other team, just don't bet it. And it's like, dude, how are the Lions not going to win this game and at least fucking score points or hold the Vikings down? And I deserve to go 0-3. I deserve the Vikings to tackle points at the end because I bet in a way where you're not paying attention like that. Okay, this will be a good way to end it. So if anybody listened this long, maybe this will help you. Do not ever bet based on pedigree. This is not like 1978 where the same players just stay on the same teams. So for me to like not trust my eyes and be like, the Lions fucking suck lately. They just suck against the Steelers. I watched 95% of that game. Don't bet on them to cover 7 points. It's the same thing as the Rams last night against the Falcons. It's like the Rams defense hasn't been looking good now for a few weeks in a row. Like, I don't know. You just like trust actually what you're watching instead of the pedigree. So that Lions game was a pedigree situation. Although your eyes told you the Vikings sucked with Brosmer.
Well, I mean, Max fucking Brosmer. I mean, he wasn't. Who, by the way, also just wasn't good. It just comes down to like Brian Flores is like probably the most terrifying defensive coordinator I've ever seen in my life. Like the shit he crafts up, the like blitzes he comes up with are out of this world. It's insane. Like, yeah, you give him anyone but two out of that draft class, he'll probably stick around for a couple of years. So it's pretty insane to look back on that.
Yeah, and he wins the Tua argument 3 years later, as it's like, no wonder why he was fucking mad at the guy.
Isn't it funny that he was just right about that whole fucking like? I wouldn't want to touch Miami. Like that's been a rumored Lamar spot, and if I'm Lamar, I'm probably like I might be good.
Yeah, there you go. Another Lamar to Miami. You pity John Harbaugh. That's funny. Yeah. Great. No, it's all good. I appreciate you doing this. And yeah, college football playoff games, this is why they extended it. So it's 4 exciting games. Well, I'm really curious to see how it plays out. Good luck on whatever you guys are betting. See you in a few days. I'll see you in a week. We'll figure it out. Yeah. And Happy New Year, everybody. And thanks again, buddy. See ya.
Yeah, see ya.